Добрий день! Слава Україні!
Hi everyone. I've been talking an awful lot the last few days throughout the summit, so I'm going to try and keep it as short as possible, especially given the fantastic, and I feel incredibly privileged to have these fantastic guests joining us, and I think we should get on, I guess, with the show as soon as possible. I'd first like to thank everybody for coming, especially our hackers, especially our supporters, namely Mint Cifra, Unit City, the Ethereum Foundation, for example, and everybody that has really and truly hacked together to make this happen and make it ultimately a reality. In my mind, as I see it and as we envisioned it from the day one many months ago, Kyiv Tech Summit, and I think it might be obvious by this point, is not an ordinary tech event. Kyiv Tech Summit is a movement. Kyiv Tech Summit is a protest. Kyiv Tech Summit is a message. And I think the message really carries the unbreakable spirit of Ukraine. And it's just a strong example of the fact that Ukraine will continue to innovate and ship incredible technology and steps forward, ultimately, no matter what. So first of all, I would love if we can have a round of applause for Ukraine. So we have had over 500 hackers join us over the last few days, both in real life here in Kyiv and also standing with Ukraine from all over the world. We've had over 30 incredible speakers. We have some incredible ones actually coming up. It's been an absolute privilege to have them share their knowledge and spotlight all of the incredible work that's being done as a part of this movement. And overall, I'm just so excited at what's left to come to finish on. Really, I don't want to talk too much. I'm incredibly grateful for everybody here and everybody that's hacked together to make this a reality. I'm also really proud of the project submissions. Actually, roughly speaking, around 50 hackathon projects have been submitted in the spirit of helping Ukraine and helping with these efforts, which I think is phenomenal. And overall, I'm just incredibly excited and happy to be here today. So thank you so much, everyone. Slava Ukraini!
Ми насправді хочемо подякувати за підтримку усім нашим спонсорам, усім нашим друзям, і завдяки їм в першу чергу і зміг відбутися цей захід. Але ми б не могли підтримувати розвиток Web3 і не могли б організувати насправді такого рівня захід без підтримки Міністерства цифрової трансформації. Завдяки їхній підтримці нас як спільноти розвитку Web3 в Україні, починаючи з 24 лютого, ми маємо можливість і збирати мільйони доларів для допомоги українцям в криптовалюті і продовжуємо розвивати технології. І я рада запросити до слова Мykhaila Федорова.
Да, всім доброго дня. Дякую за запрошення, дякую організаторам. Кілька слів хотів сказати взагалі, чим ми зараз займаємося і навіщо сьогодні я тут і яка ціль мого виступу. Ну, перш за все, ви знаєте, що є Мінцифра, ми створюємо цифрову державу, запускаємо сервіси державні, у нас є чіткі цілі, є місія. Ми хочемо зробити з України найзручнішу державу в світі з точки зору державних послуг. Ми вже запустили Дію, запустили багато послуг, сотні послуг. Ми розвиваємо IT-галузь, запустили Дія Сіті, створюємо одні з найкращих умов у світі для того, щоб IT в Україні розвивалося, займаємося покриттям інтернету нашої країни, цифровими навичками. Тобто робимо все можливе, щоб зробити нашу країну дійсно найзручнішою в світі. Також ми і використовували ті платформи, які з'явилися до війни, як Дія, взаємодія між реєстрами, цифрова інфраструктура. Ми, наприклад, дуже швидко запустили такі послуги щодо виплат. Пам'ятаєте, коли 6500 гривень людям, які на території, де бойові дії відбуваються, швидко виплатити, таргетовано, взагалі без черг, без якоїсь бюрократії, завдяки інтеграції платформі Дія. Потім запустили нові виплати, є ворог, пошкоджене майно. Ми продовжуємо далі розвивати ці сервіси, які пов'язані з війною. Ми багато нового запускаємо, але ми розуміємо, що поки в нас відбувається в країні війна, і поки Збройні сили роблять все можливе, щоб перемогти, нам потрібно з вами розвиватися як індустрії, як спільноті, технологічна, тому що весь світ продовжує розвиватися. Я маю на увазі технологічно, да, всі розвиваються, не чекають, поки Україна переможе. Тому нам потрібно робити все для того, щоб ми розвивалися як технологічна країна далі. Тому що всі країни продовжують конкурувати за людей. Всі продовжують створювати найкращі умови, податкові, правові, робити все, щоб забирати талановитих людей, тому що люди – це капітал сьогодення і майбутнього, люди найголовніше. Ми також створюємо там, Idea City запустили, намагаємося щось там лібералізувати і зробити все можливо. Звичайно, коли літають ракети, це трохи складніше, але ми з вами бачимо, що все реально, і сьогодні в нас там, до нас і гості приїхали, і дуже багато айтішників сьогодні тут. Ми продовжуємо це робити. І ось що я хотів сказати, що незважаючи на те, що зараз ми боремося на всіх фронтах, ми продовжуємо ставити собі амбітні цілі. Хочу сказати, що буде щось з Вебу 3.0, те, від чого ви просто скажете стоп, ні, це неможливо. Але ми це презентуємо на Nadia Summit, і ми вас всіх запрошуємо обов'язково, і запросимо до того, щоб відвідали і це побачили. Тобто ми зараз працюємо над тим, щоб ми вийшли з війни не тільки ми вже є найсміливіша країна в світі, і ми вже наші Збройні Сили зробили неможливо. Але щоб ми вийшли ще на новому рівні цифрової економіки, ми вийшли з новою цифровою державою. І підходячи до моєї цілі сьогоднішнього виступу, по-перше, це подякувати за те, що ви продовжуєте рухатися і генерувати ідеї. І сьогоднішній формат дуже крутий, тому що я впевнений, результати у вас будуть в конкретних проєктах. Моя ціль – отримати хоча б один проєкт, який ми зможемо зробити в індустрії 3.0 разом з вами після цієї події. Ми до цього повністю готові. У нас є команда, яка готова, відкрита, з якою можна комунікувати. Є Олександр Борняков, який тут сьогодні і заступник, і займається розвитком IT-сфери. Є у нас фонд стартапів, який тут сьогодні також присутній, і можна також до них звертатися. Тобто ми хочемо, як результат сьогоднішньої події, мати можливість з вами зробити спільний проєкт. Тому ми до цього відкриті і подумати, що б ми могли зробити класного разом, щоб весь світ здивувати. А ще хотів подякувати Віталія, тому що він був одним з перших відомих, скажімо, в технологічному напрямку успішних людей в світі, на світовому рівні, хто підтримав Україну конкретними справами. Він почав донатити в криптофонди, які створювалися в Україні, і тим самим створив певну таку медіахвилю, яка допомогла більше 100 мільйонів взагалі всім фондам крипто, які працюють в Україні, збирати кошти. І за це тобі велике дякую. І дякую, що ти приїхав в Україну. Ви знаєте, небагато технологічних людей, CEO компаній, засновників приїхали в Україну для того, щоб підтримати, провести якийсь конкретний івент, подивитися на людей, поспілкуватися з талантами і з командами. Це дуже круто. Тобі велике дякую. І обов'язково реванш в шахи все-таки я в тебе візьму на наступній зустрічі. Я вам всім дякую за те, що ви сьогодні в Києві. Це дуже круто, тому що ви вже найсміливіші айтішники в світі. Я дякую за те, що ви сьогодні брали участь протягом цих днів. І найкрутіше буде, якщо всі ці проекти, які будуть напрацьовані, ви не тільки зможете якось там монетизувати, залучити партнерів, а ви зможете зробити разом з нами крутий спільний проект. Тому дякую вам.
Я хочу передати слово кофаундеру Kyiv Tech Summit, кофаундеру благодійного фонду Unchain Реву Міллеру.
Всім дякую за те, що прийшли, за те, що підтримуєте цей івент. Я буду англійською розмовляти, тому що ми так домовились. Thank you everyone for coming. Today is a very special evening, I would say. I'm very proud and excited to welcome Vitalik to the stage, as well as Alex Bornyakov. First question that I would love to start with, and probably that's a question that everyone has, and that's to you, Vitalik. Why did you decide to come to Ukraine, and is it your first time here?
It is my first time here. And I definitely have been, following Ukraine closely, basically, ever since the whole war started. And a couple of months ago, I heard about this tech summit that was, you guys were organizing, and I was just very impressed by the fact that you would even be willing to just go and host a tech summit in the middle of a war. It's definitely be brave like Ukraine. wanted to come and both see for myself what kinds of projects people here are up to, what kinds of things people care about, what kinds of things people are building. Like what kinds of applications, like blockchain and Web3, Ethereum technology would find here. Of course, also to just help you let Ukraine know that the lots of people in the in the Ethereum and crypto world really care about you guys, and lots of people love and support you.
We're all incredibly grateful for that, and that's indeed means a lot for Ukraine. I'd love to take a step back and hear from you, Alex. Since the Minister of Digital Transformation been helping Ukraine for a very long time, and especially the crypto has been instrumental in the help during the wartime. And could you share more about how crypto has helped Ukraine since the invasion, from community, capital, and coordination standpoint?
Well, I think the major example, which was mentioned before by Mikhail Federov, is a crypto fund. And it's unprecedented, and I think it's the first time in human history the crypto is used for such important matters. And the impact was more than significant. Again, as Mykhailo mentioned, it's more than $100 million, which went for mostly to support our army, but a lot of humanitarian needs and in such desperate times. And especially, it was remarkable actually when this all started. In first week of the war, crypto appears to be almost the only way to get supplies from outside of Ukraine, and obviously we didn't have those things inside. But today, I think we saw much more examples than just crypto fund alone. We generally we now cooperate with the European blockchain government initiative called EPSI in trying to build solutions again on the registries, moving them to blockchain. Looking forward to bring this transparency and accountability for government data and so on. Well, I think from the community standpoint, I don't know, we finally realized how big it is, how it's impactful. And it turns out that almost all crypto companies in the world have Ukrainians co-founders, CTOs, and just regular people that work for those companies, and of course customers. So that's also, I think, the spirit of community and what we're fighting for, our values, they reflect or they kind of synchronize with what we as Ukrainian fighting for. It's also independence. It also, again, be freedom, transparency, and this. I think that's the spirit of the whole crypto community, and I think that's the reason why they support us. Well, I might stop here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Vitalik, you've been very vocal since day one. I remember that you've been, sharing the right information, asking the crypto community to be active, and I wonder, how do you feel and what do you think about, overall situation?
In overall situation, in what sense?
Like what's happening in Ukraine and how crypto community reacts to that?
Again, I think one of the things that I think impressed me about Ukraine itself, I think obviously the the biggest kind of public narrative and kind of the very important one is it's a country that's doing an excellent job, very bravely and valiantly defending itself. But also, there's this kind of other side where this is a country where there's people who really understand tech and people who really understand the latest tech, like even at the highest levels of government. It's a spirit that I think even exists across many places in Central and Eastern Europe. I remember visiting Estonia about 5 years ago and just being very impressed by the e-residency, digital identity, and integration of banking, and just like from my visit today here, it's clear that, exactly the same stuff is, being built like very quickly here. And it looks like, it might even end up overtaking what's happening in Estonia. So I think, there's a combination of, both, a country that's in great need of just being able to very quickly work with and try to figure out new approaches to solving its problems, together with kind of this willingness and hunger to actually look at both Web3 and crypto, but also just all kinds of new technologies, like even like Starlink as was mentioned before, and like just about everything in this space. From the point of view of the crypto space, I think like one of the ways that I see this is that one of the weaknesses of the crypto space is that sometimes, and especially in bull markets, the kind of the financial and speculative aspect kind of gets ahead of the technology, right? And when the price of Bitcoin and Ether assets just keeps going up 20% a month for an entire year, then people start to just a lot of people get into the mindset that this that is the point of the technology, and you get into just make money off of stuff in the short term, and people start creating tokens where they guarantee that it will give you an interest rate of 19% every year, and then of course it's totally not sustainable and it breaks. So I think it's important for our industry to have these kind of down to earth moments of remembering that there are very real and important things that the technology is doing, and when bubbles pop, right? But I think sustainable long-term utility is something that can last forever. And this is something I remember really feeling on my visit to Argentina as well at the end of last year, right? Argentinians, they suffer from high inflation. The country has averaged about 30% annual inflation for at least the last 2 decades. I think it might even be the last century or something like that, right? And that's a country that has both just very smart and capable people, but also this environment that just makes it very difficult for them to survive and just prosper economically. And a lot of them just manage to use blockchain and cryptocurrency tools to do for just running their businesses, giving money to their families, doing what they need to do, and even. A lot of Argentinians are kind of very up at the top, leading very important crypto projects that benefit the whole world. And this is something that I think we've been seeing on even a whole other level here, right? It's this isn't just a government that's said a couple of nice things about cryptocurrency for PR value. This is a country that's really actually made use of the technology and shown can use it to do things that existing financial systems just did not provide. And there's a lot of, not even just the governments, just, lots of different independent groups and, Unchain and Ukraine DAO and all of these amazing efforts at just self-organizing to just meet all of the various needs that people have. And I think many people in the wider crypto community see that. And I think it's even, motivating to people outside of Ukraine that these things actually can happen, and this is the sort of thing that the crypto space is building for. Not trying to make 19% interest rates every year. So
definitely, I think that the overall coordination of the crypto community it's been fascinating since the day one. All of my friends, the crypto, projects that I've been involved in, a lot of DAOs gathered together to help Ukraine. And moving forward, Alex, what do you think is next for Web3 in terms of, the war and humanitarian efforts, and especially sort of the innovative startup ecosystem you already touched on, some of the projects you've been building?
Sure, but before moving to Web3, I just failed to mention one of the things about the previous question. Another example was using crypto and blockchain technologies to help refugees. There was two particular examples, one on the Stellar blockchain and on Binance using their stablecoin. When we organized together with UN actually, help to refugees to address the help using crypto, specifically to those who left Ukraine and they need, and that was also a remarkable question. It's answering what crypto gave Ukraine. About Web3 and what it's going to give to Ukraine. So we have a couple of things. Mykhailo said we don't want to disclose much of them because every year we hold a DIA Summit, and this is the place where we reveal all their technical innovations. What I can answer here that we definitely look into it, and we study. I can just give a broad answer. We study every aspect of it and how we can implement it, working together with business, with companies, with crypto companies from Ukraine mostly, but we open to actually to anybody, and trying to get around of their specific part of the technology and how we can use it to benefit Ukrainians and the government. I really apologize. I can't give precise answer, but as I mentioned before, you'll be surprised.
I'm very looking forward to it. Vitalik, you've built one of the largest crypto networks in the world, and I wonder, obviously it's your first time in Ukraine, and still you are part of the crypto community, and you've seen that there's a lot of Ukrainians building crypto networks. Do you think that Ukraine could become the next, Web3 hub?
Yeah, I think it absolutely can. I think one of the differences between crypto and AI, for example, right? Is there's great AI everywhere, but I think on average, AI projects, they tends to concentrate. They're either in the Bay Area or in one of the mega cities in China. And crypto is just very different because it's not like that at all, right? It's the Ethereum Foundation's even our American hub is in Denver, and our development hub is in Berlin. We have people in Singapore, people in Taipei, people in half the guest team is in Romania, and so it's possible for I think just about any country, if people are determined to really step up and make a big impact in the space. So I think yes, absolutely, and I think Ukraine has both the ability and the determination to become a great crypto hub if it wants to.
A follow-up question for you, Vitalik. In terms of the startup ecosystem of Ukraine, how do you see the Ethereum's role into that? The Ethereum role in the startup ecosystem of Ukraine?
The Ethereum project's role?
Like Ethereum as, the foundation and Ethereum adoption.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So I guess just to talk a bit about the Ethereum Foundation, our general philosophy is to not try to grow into like a big elephant ourselves, right? The Ethereum Foundation directly has maybe about 200 employees, but if you compare that with Binance has over 3,000, Kraken and Coinbase have somewhere between 1,000 and 5,000. I forget the numbers. The foundation spends spends more money on grants than it does on its internal staff. And, it's intentional, kind of, we believe in, the philosophy of a decentralized ecosystem and trying to empower just local groups everywhere to pursue their own visions and, give them the resources and, both financial and kind of technical and just other kinds of help that they need. So I think, that puts us as a foundation, definitely in a good place to try, figure out what kinds of local groups it makes sense to collaborate with, in what way. There's definitely, projects in like other countries and even in Latin America that we're starting to do that I think could be used as a model for that sort of thing. This is something that we are kind of growing into over time, right? So like 3 or 4 years ago, for example, I think the foundation was just not in a position at all to work with anyone. And I think, unfortunately, we did kind of have to disappoint people because, people were, very cheerful and, hey, we, love crypto and Ethereum and, what can we do next? And, we weren't really in a good place to do anything except, maybe recommend them to like talk to Joe at Consensus. But, things have improved a lot and I think they're continuing to improve. And it's like in the ecosystem in general, like the foundation is only one of many different groups, right? There's ETH Global that organizes hackathons everywhere. There's, all kinds of local community groups in various different cities and parts of the world, and they talk to each other. If there's enough people in the foundation in one place, then that kind of turns into a kind of like a de facto base for the Ethereum ecosystem. So I think the approach that we want to have is to just find ways to create more links between the local Ukrainian community and the smartest and most amazing researchers in Ethereum land anywhere, right? All of the people, whether it's working on zero knowledge technology or like cryptography, or the consensus and protocol side of things. And once those connections are made, that typically ends up just being a big boost for everyone on both sides.
Alex, I know that the Ministry of Digital Transformation is doing a lot and continues to in terms of the onboarding, and that's such an important topic, right? And in crypto, the onboarding is a huge challenge right now. I wonder, could you share more about sort of concrete plans the Ministry of Digital Transformation has in terms of the onboarding, focused on the tech, the crypto, Web3, and the startup ecosystem?
Well, those things are really connected. Our top priority task right now is to finish the legislation issues. During the war, President signed the law on virtual assets. I think that's one of the things showing that how it's important. So, in the times of war, when Russian invasion is in full scale, President signing this bill. This is how we as a government of Ukraine think about the importance of this topic. And our goal right now is to finish the taxation issues on the legislative level, and I think we moving. There's so many complex things, and we, frankly speaking, overestimated the deadlines. And despite of the war, of course, we can use this as an excuse, but there's a lot of complexities to finally put this, eventually making it the regular thing, like anything else, like regular money or virtual assets, to be the part of Ukrainian legislative system. But the reason I think we went too far because we're not thinking about crypto itself. We were thinking about this as a new way of but maybe not a way, but new instance, and we call it virtual assets for a reason, because it's not just about crypto. It's about the whole economy and about the future things. And one of the examples why what proved this approach right, because when we started, there was no NFTs, and There's no NFT, like no one actually working with NFTs. But back in the days, like 2 years ago, together with a group of thinking, there's going to be definitely one day going to be something new, so we don't have to close just for the crypto. And it appears we were right, because NFT now we're talking about Web3 things, maybe like metaverse things, and I said that I want to disclose things, but metaverse is very close to what we thinking about from the Web3 elements and government services. So this is our top priority right now, and we're working together with our Security Commission, with the National Bank, and hoping to finish this till the end of the year. Also, as a government, think that there should be two, and Vitalik actually mentioned this, building community is one of the priorities. We obviously understand, trying to be realistic, that while we have a risk of a rocket strike or something, it's hard to build, and making events like this in a normal way. But also, the second pillar that we think about is funding. So another priority is to find enough money for every startup in this country, and both using government money from, let's say, the Ukrainian Startup Fund, from European Union, from United States as a government help, but also from private institutions. And next week, you're going to hear very good news about that. And I think it's going to be first time in history that private fund this size, I'm not making an announcement yet, but there's going to be huge news next week.
Not yet.
Yeah. And we're working towards such examples, which we'll hear next week, because we believe that in order to develop startup ecosystem, and including Web3 and all this like subsection, we have to have enough capital. That's what we totally clearly understand, and every day working towards this goal. Thank you.
Would you like to add anything, Vitalik?
I'm trying to think what I should add that I haven't said already. Any specific questions in mind?
I think we can then move to another very interesting topic, central bank digital currencies. I'd love to start from you, Vitalik.
Well, yeah, this is a fun one. I guess, no, I think it's a complicated topic, right? Because, I mean, I'll be honest, and I'll admit that, like, what I've seen out of the CBDC space has been a disappointment so far. I think basically what I've seen is that the space, like, started with this kind of very, idealistic vision that we're going to create these digital currencies that are direct to consumers. We can disintermediate commercial banking, like drastically simplify the financial system. Reduce the risk of many kinds of financial crises, and. But that's kind of how a lot of things started. But then when you follow the projects and you look at what happens to them over time, right? Like, first of all, they never end up doing it on blockchain, and it's not even just that Ethereum is too expensive, we want to make a private chain. No. Like they don't even end up doing a Merkle tree. You don't even have authentication, right? And then the whole idea of being direct to consumer, like in all of the different projects I've seen, it ends up falling away, and you start bringing commercial banks into the middle of the system, and then I remember I was talking to the DCEP people in China back in 2014 and 15, and at the time they were kind of very excitedly interacting with the crypto space and trying to understand what would it take for them to make a blockchain digital currency. And then fast forward 5 years, and what they've made is honestly just a clone of Alipay, right? And what's the point? So I think theoretically it's very possible for a central bank digital currency to actually be something better than just another payment processor, but this is I think something where we actually have to I look forward to seeing someone actually innovate and try to figure this out.
Yeah, and probably as a person who spent 100 hours on consultation and the ways to figure out how to implement CBDC in Ukrainian reality. I totally support what Vitalik said. It's really complicated. I see a lot of benefits, and together with the National Bank, we actually decided to start a small pilot, how to implement CBDC in Ukrainian financial system. And actually from the August this year, our national bank is able to create sandboxes according to the law that they passed through the parliament almost a year ago. And we had a lot of plans for that. I mean, using the sandbox and trying to bring some CBDC projects on Ukrainian soil. And of course, 24th February ruined those plans a lot because those projects were postponed. But give you more, like maybe giving you more specifics, we decided to try 3 blockchains: Ethereum, Stellar, and shit, I forgot third. Whatever. But we wanted to do the same task on the 3 blockchains and test them out. This is still in development, but again, it raised so many questions from the commercial system, from society. One of the examples really comes from social aspect of this question, because at some point we realized that people are not ready to this. So if you do a perfect technical solution, most likely it's going to fail because they not ready to adopt it and use it in real life. So this is just one of the examples that we faced during this, I don't know, like as I mentioned, hundreds of hours of moving around this topic. But I believe that it's a great thing, and at some point, Ukraine is going to move to CBDC. Our president also said that one of his priorities that he want to build cashless economy, and I think CBDCs should be, and I think it's a crucial part of moving cashless. That's my personal point, but I believe a lot of people in the government also share this.
Very interesting take. During the wartime, we've seen that crypto isn't just about financial side, and that's something I'm very happy that a lot of people start to realize. And I wonder, Vitalik, that's a question to you. How can we better leverage or use, the Web3 to find, propaganda, ensure the censorship resistance, ensure that we store the truthful, right information, and especially preserve, let's say, the history of Ukraine and the culture?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good question. I mean, I think this, it gets into this discussion about blockchains for non-financial applications in general, and I think you can look at it in a few different ways, right? The easiest thing we can do, right, is to just create ways to kind of automatically hash different images into the create some kind of hash link that gets rooted in the Bitcoin chain or the Ethereum chain, or actually why not both, because you only need one hash in each for any number of messages, and then you have some proof that it was created before some amount of time. And I think actually in the era of things like deep learning and stable diffusion, it becomes more important to have this sort of more cryptographic evidence about when pictures were produced to make sure that they're not AI fakes. So that's kind of one way to look at it, sort of purely technical correctness. And then the other way to thing to ask is could some kind of Web3 technology be used to create social media platforms that do a better job of promoting content that's correct and not fake, but at the same time doing it in a way that's fair, and that all of the users can have some perception that it's being done in a way that's unbiased and not just manipulated by whoever's running it. And I think I mean, there definitely are like interesting technologies that could be used there, like both and like blockchain-based things, and like things having to do with token incentives, but also the whole space around zero-knowledge proofs and like different kinds of privacy-preserving voting applications, like privacy-preserving ways to like flag like people. Like particular pieces of content and data. I don't think I know the answers, but I think there's very powerful tools that unlock a lot of different possibilities for people to try.
Alex, could you share with us some of perhaps most fascinating Web3 use cases that you found out throughout the wartime?
I think most fascinating is it's NFT Museum. And I know Vasily's here, who we started to work with, and starting from the concept, following their implementation. I think it's one of the things that's most amazed me the most. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the.
Yes, we're very good friends.
Yeah. So, but just give a few words to the audience, because if you're not familiar, this is just a fascinating thing. So, the NFT Museum is an attempt to create a sequence of events of the war starting from 24th February, connecting every NFT to the specific news item and the image associated with it, created by famous artists or talented artists. I'm not sure how famous they are. I'm not from this community. Anyway, Russia is trying to twist the history. So with this sequence created in like preserving everyday events, after 100 years, we still can follow up the truth. No one can actually using, because blockchain is used. We totally sure, 100% sure that those events are in the right order, and this is exactly what happened. And you can change this. I think this is a fascinating example of how Web3 technologies can be used, and I think that's the way. Like I have a son, and he's 10 years old, but after I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 10 years, this is the way he's going to consume the knowledge. This is my belief. I think that's the future of it. Thank you.
We all agree with you, Alex, and that's why we are all here making the change. Speaking of all of us here, we're actually in a room full of hackers, and those hackers been hacking for 70 hours straight, non-stop. Let's first give applause. Thank you. For those hackers who still would love to continue pushing, public goods, pushing the projects and solutions that help Ukraine, both, on like war tech side and humanitarian aid, do you have any sort of specific ideas you would like them to focus on moving forward?
I think we have a set of problems that we facing at this point in the times of war. Most of them are known. But I can name a few. We personally faced with the procurement problems and accountability and traceability of the goods and things that comes to Ukraine, and especially like in first 2 weeks after the war started, there's complete mess. Like no one know where it's go, like what goes through custom, whether it eventually end up being in which hands. So I think there's solutions that help like establish transparency and maybe decentralize it could be relevant. So the procurement stuff, I think artificial intelligence that help run autonomous devices. This is another huge priority for Ukraine right now, because again, as Mikhail Federov mentioned, that there's I think to win this war, we need to be, I would call this creative, and this is the part of it. We have also a huge problem with data, with government data, with registers, and this is also where we need some help, especially when it goes because we recently achieved the status of European Union candidate, so we need to adjust a lot of procedures according to European Union laws and regulations. So those kind of stuff also could be priority and interesting. It's hard for me to say for what my private sector needs, so I'm going to pass on that.
Sure. Vitalik, would you like to add anything?
No, it's hard to add things. I mean, these answers are very comprehensive already. What kinds of things are worth working on?
Maybe for private sector.
Right, private sector. Yeah. I think. One of the fascinating things to me about the both the Ukrainian defense and just organizing things like aid for civilians and refugees, just everything is just how much independent organizing there's going on, right? And there's projects like Ukraine DAO, projects like Unchain that have been doing a lot of good already, and I think there's a lot to be learned here about what makes a good DAO, what makes a DAO actually effective. Are there lessons from here that can be applied to DAO projects in the rest of the world in general. So I think creating trying to figure out what would better and actually effective decentralized governance platforms look like, and both the kind of formal on-chain side and the I think kind of off-chain communication and coming to consensus side. Also, to some extent, the same projects as anywhere else, making it more convenient for people to just use cryptocurrency for payments, to use digital identity, to trying to also integrate kind of the sort of Ethereum identity stack with some of the stuff that that the ministry is working on. I think there's a lot of different kinds of things there that can be built too.
Before we move to the questions from audience, prepare your questions, please. I'd love to give a big shout out to all of our hackers. We had more than 500 hackers signing up to hack for Ukraine, both online and offline. We had more than 30 plus speakers, mentors joining us to share their knowledge, share their expertise, highlight all of the incredible work that has been done for Ukraine. We also had great volunteers, partners, sponsors, the organizer team that helped us to make this happen. And obviously, huge thanks to our guests that helped us make this event historical. Do you have any, Alex, Vitalik, do you have any last comments, a message you want to show to our hackers?
Maybe before moving to the final message, I was thinking about what else to your previous question. So I think also some solutions in electronic democracy built on Web3 technologies also could be interesting. I remember before the war we were talking with Microsoft because they developed some e-voting system based on their knowledge and expertise and their size, of course. And I think they even launched it in some country, and we were really interested in that. So that might be with development of technologies that might be interesting also for at some point.
It's a great example because I mean even within the Ethereum Foundation, or at least it's like it's supported by the Ethereum Foundation. There's this team that's working on like basically a blockchain and zero knowledge proof based voting platform, and like it actually uses like both of those technologies to like actually make the vote more secure, right? So zero knowledge proofs keep the votes private, and they ensure that votes are being counted correctly. The blockchain provides censorship resistance, so if you want to vote, you can stick your vote on chain, and they have to count it, and the zero knowledge proof forces them to count it. So you don't even have to kind of trust the infrastructure to not ignore your vote, and it has kind of all of the standard properties that people expect out of a good voting system. So it's MACI is the name of one of these projects. It's there's already a project trying to incorporate it into a quadratic funding implementation, but this sort of thing could be used for just regular e-votes of many kinds as well. Yeah, I think the intersection of blockchain and ZK is I think it's fascinating, and I think it's even more powerful than both, right? Like one of the reasons why is because like blockchains, they give you kind of both like censorship resistance and like and a certain kind of security, but at the expense of scalability and privacy, right? Like blockchains, not very scalable and everything is public, but zero knowledge proofs give you back the scalability and privacy. So they're actually perfect companions for each other.
Well, I totally agree, and there's actually building. Maybe I'm going to go to some specifics, but I think it's worth to hear that one of the obstacles to implement electronic voting system in Ukrainian legislation is a restriction from Constitution, because it says that every vote must be confidential. So I think this is where blockchain kind of solve this issue, because you can anonymously hold a vote, but the system allows you to prove that that's exactly you. So that's something that I was thinking about some time ago, and this is actually why any of solutions like Microsoft fail, because if you can do electronic vote in Ukraine because of the constitutional restriction, and if you move anything to online and you authorize the person, then there's no confidentiality. So. That's the question for hackers, actually, how to turn this around. And maybe it's the last thing. I really want to thank everyone during this event. Thank you for, what I'm going to say is thank you for keep trying. Thank you for thinking about something new, bringing this from your brain to real life. And that's really fascinating.
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, thank you guys for inviting me. This looks like it's been a great and wonderful event, and I was very happy to be able to talk a bit with the teams from the hackathons and see what kinds of projects that they're building on. I mean, hackathons are often a great seed. A prototype gets built 72 hours, but ideas get formed and friendships get made, and they can often be the start of something that lasts for more than 5 years. So look forward to seeing what the results of all of these projects are going to turn into a year from now. Otherwise, just keep up the good work.
Thank you, Vitalik and Alex. And Alex, that was a fantastic panel. We have a time for 2-3 questions. If anyone have a question, please raise your hand.
Hi, my name is Martina. A question to both of you. Do you think it is possible to decentralize the concept of government?
I actually been asked this question not the first time in my life, and my answer last time was that I think no. It didn't change much though since that time. Well, being 3 years in a government, I think that it's possible to make decision-making process decentralized. But you can rely on government which is decentralized. And Ukrainian case is the best example because we won't survive 3 days if we were decentralized. So the general question, there are some times in the history, and it's in some cases, not cases, but at some point, in some circumstances, you can move to certain decentralization. Like if everything is good, I don't know, like economy is stable and people are smart, and they like have a mentality like in Switzerland, not like in Ukraine. And I'm saying this because one particular example, because when Switzerland were asked if they want to get minimum income for everyone, they said no, because they smart enough to understand that this is the way to nowhere. But if you ask the same question in Ukraine, most people say yes, because they just want to get money for free. And in this society, making decentralization is probably would not be a good idea. And again, if you face events like a war, you should be centralized, and this is the way you win. Yeah, so I would stick to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think my views are kind of similar, that there's, I think there are some parts of government that are easier to decentralize than some parts of the government that are harder. Like there are just, there are some tasks that just benefit a lot from kind of central, decision making and the ability to kind of, make a plan, and whatever that plan is, stick to it, right? Like I think, unfortunately, the military is probably the best example of this, right? Like if you have every division just makes decisions by itself, then the other side just concentrates their forces in one place and just splits the country in half. I think there are a lot of other things that do benefit from decentralization, like funding, like many different kinds of public goods, for example. It's there's a lot of value in having a more decentralized process, because then, if one part of the process completely misses something, then another part of the process can kind of pick it up, right? And I think even the American tradition of charity and people just independently creating projects and just being very willing to donate large amounts of money to it. It's not perfect, but I think it's one of the big advantages there, right? That people who are kind of far away from government mentality of thinking of what's public good, they have their own ideas of what's a public good, and if either one of them is right, then something gets funded, right? So I think there are some kinds of problems where it makes a lot of sense to try more decentralized and more democratic approaches of different kinds, but definitely not 100%.
Thank you.
We have another question in the room.
Hi, my name is Ellie Moser. I'm from New York, and we came here for the hackathon, and we've been building a project integrating DIA to the blockchain. So we're creating on-chain identities through DIA, so we're sort of de-anonymizing wallet addresses through DIA. And I wanted to ask a philosophical question, because in the news recently, there's been a lot of talk about Tornado Cash and the government sanctioning wallet addresses. So are you concerned, I know, Alex, you were talking about having DIA and potentially on-chain identities. Are you concerned that in the future, a non-benevolent government could do some sort of crackdown on wallet addresses if they're de-anonymized, and instead of just sanctioning a wallet address, actually sanctioning a real human being?
Well, this is this is a complicated question for me, quite frankly. Honestly, you got me thinking.
It is complicated.
I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm sorry, but the questions about cracking identities and possessing the data and.
Well, I mean, the question is, if we successfully create a way for on-chain identities, like on-chain wallet addresses, to be connected to a real-life person, now there's all sort of ramifications that can be done to that person for the things they've done with their wallet address. So I think it's really cool and something that's definitely going to be worked on in the future, and our team is, powering away on it. But I'm also concerned as we work on it that perhaps there could be bad implications where people now can track those wallet addresses, connect it to a person, and crack down on them.
But yeah, this is again requires CBDC and but maybe not CBDC, but connecting wallets. I think that. That might be a case, but I just it's like social. Now you got me thinking. I think I figured this out. I think it's a sort of very similar to what I faced when I lived in the US with the social ID numbers, SSN numbers specifically. So they also connected to the identity, and everyone trying to keep it private. But because if you disclose it, you can suffer. So I think this experience of U.S. government with social would be really relevant to answering your question. But again, as I mentioned before, I can't really answer that. But look into this.
We definitely are.
Yeah, because you're from New York, you know this.
Yeah, I mean, I think like this gets into a kind of the complicated, philosophical topic of privacy, and I've been very supportive of efforts to improve privacy on the blockchain, because I think at the end of the day, if everything is fully public, then it does become a dystopia, right? It's there's all kinds of actors are able to see just everything that you're doing, and it just becomes very easy for people to threaten each other, for people to get information about each other, to exploit each other, and there's all kinds of problems. But at the same time, there's this sort of question of, how can we give, regular people a high level of privacy, but, at the same time not support, $2 billion hackers, for example. And I actually think that I've actually thought about this and talked about this with a lot of people over the last couple of weeks, and there are interesting approaches that can be made. So one simple example of this is there's this idea of making a version of Tornado Cash where when you withdraw, you would also make another proof that proves that you did not come from a particular subset of deposits. And so the idea is that people would subscribe to some provider that would kind of provide these subsets automatically, and then the hope is that basically when the hacker comes in and puts $1 billion of deposits, then all of the other honest users, when they deposit or when they withdraw, they would add this proof that that says I am not one of these people, and then the hacker just doesn't end up getting anyone else to mix their money with, right? And to me, this is an example of a powerful thing about ZK, which is how it's simultaneously a privacy and a verifiability technology, right? That you can both hide information that really should be private, but at the same time prove information that you want to prove, whether it's to establish that you're a good actor or to prove just any kinds of things about yourself. And I think both in the financial sphere and also in the identity sphere as well, right? We're going to see a lot of examples of those kinds of approaches, right? So it should absolutely be possible to have an identity system where you're not leaking all of the information on chain by default, but if you want to prove, specific things about yourself. You could prove that in zero knowledge. There's even ways to like make proofs in such a way that like limits how many proofs that you can make, right? So, like if you want to take out a loan, for example, then, you'd be able to prove like, I'm proving that, I have this kind of identity, but also that like I did not make like more than some number of other loans using this mechanism. So you can't cheat the system. There's a lot of options.
So the reason why we were working on this is because we had a very novel way. We had this novel approach to delivering aid through loans, and the question, that was the starting point. And then we're like, well, we want to give this novel loan method to Ukrainian refugees, but how do we prove that people are refugees? And that's how we ended up with the DIA integration. And one really cool thing that Anton, one of our devs, figured out, because we were having the philosophical discussion, and we're like, well, do we ping data? Do we ping DIA and pull the data and build our own database, and then have all this knowledge on people? And that doesn't seem cool, because like now we are the centralized database deciding if people are acceptable or not. And one of the things that we're working on is just having like a DIA UID, so that the wallet is connected, and it says this wallet is connected to a real person. It's connected to a UID, but it's not actually saying what the person's name is, what their status is. And so we have the ability then to say that this person is verifiable for a loan, but we're not saying who the person is, where they are, or anything else about them.
Yeah, no, like it's a perfect application.
Yeah. I don't know how many people really followed this conversation here in this.
Sorry.
No. I think it's time for some more questions.
If you have time for 1-2 questions, yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Timur. So on this hackathon, we're making project G-Soul. So we're creating soul-bound issuing platform, also tied down to personality identification, and users will be able to rate each other, verified users, by karma points. So we found out that Ukraine has a great power of crowdfunding, and we proved it, like by supplying our nation with funds for different projects. And I have a question. How do you see the next steps in forming crowdfunding in blockchain technology? For example, founding different businesses in real life. For example, you may be seen in Kyiv Urban Space 500, where people just like getting into creating a business, and they're all owners. So how do you see in Ukraine developing this crowdfunding power? Because like we're really strong in working together. Will be this opportunity to co-own a business and just like giving in your crypto assets and becoming a part of this business, because now you can be owner of this. You can just like donate. So how do you see the next steps in this moment? Thank you.
I've read a piece of work on Soul Bonds token, and it actually inspired us to add some functionality to the crypto fund. Unfortunately, we didn't come to a real implementation, but we discussed the concept that we can use the Soul Bond tokens to award people for the nation and create a mechanism and a blockchain, like you distribute them based on some social achievements or generosity or I don't know how they generally react to things or how they help other people or based on feedbacks on them. At this point, those we're just thinking about ideas. We had also some ideas about gamification. Maybe it's not a good word here, but it generally reflects what we thinking about. Like if you're, I don't know, if you're. There's an example of this in the donation process. If you donate, like on the drones, on the wings, we can write the message to Russians before they going to be hit by some bomb, or you can put your message on the bomb itself, like so this is those are examples that being used widely already. I think we can move some of them on blockchain and on the Web3, but again, we're just discussing things like that. I'm partially kidding, but still. Anyway, as I mentioned before, I think maybe in half a year from now, maybe a little bit faster, maybe a little bit longer, you're going to see some projects based on this concept using Sol tokens, because we really like this idea.
Thank you. Okay, and a little bit additional question to this, just a second. And so I work a lot with kids, young generation, and I would like to ask how you'll see, from what age, and like in Ukraine, will it be somehow regulated? From what age you'll be able to use crypto assets? Like, do you see some development in that? Because the young generation is very interested in this. They're developing and growing their potential daily.
I don't know, it's definitely younger than I was. Well, I think that we actually work.
Anyway.
Well, we're now working on changing IT lessons in school from the beginning, and I think the blockchain and Web3 will be from the first grade. So we'll start to talk about those things. Maybe not from first grade. I don't quite remember, but it's really from the young age. I think. But my personal point of view here is that any person, as long as it start to consume those knowledges, able to consume those knowledges, it deserves to know and deserves to have a right to use them. There's a separate case with the money because, again, I have a child and he can purchase anything because he can be easily persuaded. So there should be limitation. But in generally, like if you want to involve yourself but without losing assets, it could be done from very young age. So the problem is losing assets.
I think he had his hand up for a long time.
Well, you can take this one.
I'm Alexander, and I've been deep into decentralized technologies way before the blockchain came big. And my question is, centralization brings simplicity and also brings fragility. Like the coming merge was a complex and deeply orchestrated process that required lots of choreography from tons of participants. Have you considered making scaling into a number of different competing consensus systems where a particular Web3 app can interact with multiple of them, like a multi-party system in a government? And scale in this way, so you can experiment with different systems, so you can scale this way and have a bigger risk tolerance. It won't implode at once if something fails, and but much deeper integrated than we have now with multiple chains and bridges.
I guess, I think like Cosmos is obviously the one project that's trying to take the multiple chain and bridge model and do a lot of tech standardization to make it like a very usable environment. So that exists. And then within Ethereum land, we're trying to do something sort of like that with rollups, right? Like rollups, so they share security, they all get security, and they get data space from the Ethereum base chain, but they have the ability to kind of fully customize how everything works inside of them internally. So I think in both places the ecosystem is moving a bit in that direction already.
Yeah, thank you. Mm-hmm.
I think we have time for one last question. Who thinks he has it? The most important question? Are you sure? Okay, let's ask our mentor, the Solidity lead at Distributed Labs.
Thank you for this chance. My name is Armin, and actually we just had a hackathon here about the ideas of how Web3 space can help Ukraine in the ongoing situation. And I actually have the simple question: do you have a real concrete ideas of what could be implemented right now and right here that would really help the government and the army and so on? Because we, in the company, we have the resources and the desire, the really qualified resources to bring something to life. And if you just have something to build, then tell us, and we could make it real.
Well, I think. Thank you for the question. Well, I think I mentioned, maybe not the specifics, but there was a question, and I answered it, that there's a problem with procurement, especially if it's a humanitarian help, and maybe solutions built on blockchain and artificial intelligence and other things that really might help. That's maybe. Well, I named a few others. I don't know if you were here, so just take this one. There's probably projects related to identity and corporate integration with DIA, with services, but I can't give you a simple answer because in a majority of cases for the government there is no simple solutions. Anyway, I think the procurement, solving the procurement issues is the best bet.
Okay, thank you. I will probably have the conversation with you for the more details a bit later.
Yeah, no problem. Sure.
I would love to thank our very special guests and speakers, Alex and Vitalik. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of our hackers, all of our supporters, sponsors, partners, everyone that helped us, everyone that's joining us here in Kyiv and also standing with Ukraine all around the world. Thank you.
Thank you.